Difference between interceptor and filter. In Spring MVC. Introduction. In web applications, there are situations where you want to log requests, check authentication, modify requests responses, measure performance, apply security rules. Instead of writing this logic in every controller, you use filters, interceptors. Both are used to intercept HTTP requests, but they work at different levels and serve different purposes. Understanding the difference between filter and interceptor is very important for Spring MVC developers. What are filter and interceptor? Filter. A filter is part of the servlet API and works at the container level before Spring MVC. Example concept. Client means filter means dispatcher servlet means controller interceptor. An interceptor is part of Spring MVC and works at the framework level. Example concept. Client means dispatcher servlet means interceptor means controller. Key difference overview feature, filter interceptor level servlet container, Spring MVC package, jakarta.servlet, org.springframework.web. Execution time, before dispatcher servlet, after dispatcher servlet. Configuration, web.xml/appbean. Web MVC configurer, use case, low level. Processing application logic. Example concept. Filter is outside Spring. Interceptor is inside Spring. How request flow works. Full flow. Client request. Filter, servlet level. Dispatcher servlet. Interceptor, Spring level. Controller, response. Interceptor, post handle. Filter, response processing. Example concept. Filter means interceptor, means controller, means interceptor, means filter in detail. What is a filter? A filter is used to pre-process requests, modify request response, block requests, perform security checks. Example, import jakarta.servlet, import jakarta.servlet.annotation, web filter, import java.io.io exception. Web filter, URL patterns equals // public class myFilter implements filter. Override, public void do filter. Servlet request, servlet response, filter chain, throws IO exception, servlet exception. System out println, filter before request. Chain.do filter, request, response. System out println, filter after response. Example concept. Filter means wraps entire request lifecycle interceptor in detail. What is an interceptor? An interceptor is used to handle business-level logic, check authentication log, API calls, measure execution time. Example import org.springframework.web.servlet.handler interceptor. Import jakarta.servlet.http.check. Public class myInterceptor implements handler interceptor. Override. Public boolean pre-handle HTTP servlet request, HTTP servlet response, object handler. System.out.println before controller. Return true. Override. Public void post handle HTTP servlet request, HTTP servlet response, object handler, model in view. System out println. After controller. Override. Public void after completion. HTTP servlet request, HTTP servlet response, object handler, exception, EX. System out println after response complete. Example concept. Interceptor means works around controller execution. How to register interceptor. Import org.springframework.context.annotation.configuration. Import org.springframework.web.servlet.configuration.annotation. Configuration public class web config implements web MVC configurer. Override public void add interceptors, interceptor registry, add interceptor new myInterceptor, add path patterns API //. Example concept. Spring config means interceptor applied to specific paths. When to use filter. Use filter when you need to work with raw request/response. You need to modify headers. You need to handle encoding. You need to implement low-level security. You want to intercept all requests, including static resources. Example concept. Low-level processing means Use filter when to use interceptor. Use interceptor when you need Spring context, beans, services. You want to apply logic before after controller. You want to check authentication authorization. You want to log API calls. You want to measure execution time. Example concept. Spring-aware logic means use interceptor. Key differences explained. 1. Level filter means works before Spring interceptor means works inside Spring. 2. Dependency filter means independent of Spring. Interceptor means depends on Spring MVC. 3. Access to Spring Beans filter means limited access. Interceptor means full access. 4. Scope filter means all requests, including static. Interceptor means only controller requests. 5. Lifecycle methods. Filter init, do filter, destroy. Interceptor, pre-handle, post-handle, after completion. Real-world example. Filter use case. Logging request headers, setting CORS headers, compression. Interceptor use case. JWT authentication. Role-based access, request timing. Example concept. Filter means infrastructure. Interceptor means application logic. Execution order example, request. Filter means, interceptor means controller. Response. Controller means, interceptor means filter. Common mistakes. 1. Using filter for business logic. Better to use interceptor. 2. Expecting Spring Beans in filter. Filters are not always Spring managed. 3. Forgetting to register interceptor. Interceptor won't run unless registered. 4. Returning false in pre-handle. Return false. This stops request execution. Best practices. Best practices include: use filter for low-level processing. Use interceptor for business logic. Keep logic clean and separated. Avoid heavy processing in filters. Use interceptors for authentication. Example concept. Separation of concerns means cleaner architecture. Advantages: filter works at lowest level, applies to all requests, independent of Spring interceptor. Spring-aware, flexible, and powerful. Easier to manage. Challenges: confusion between both. Choosing correct layer. Lifecycle differences. Debugging, execution order. By learning this topic, you understand what filter is, what interceptor is, differences between them, request flow in Spring MVC, when to use each, how to configure interceptor. Simple definition. Filter versus interceptor in Spring MVC. Filter, a servlet-level component that processes requests before they reach Spring. Interceptor, a Spring MVC component that processes requests around controller execution. Final summary. Filters and interceptors are both used to intercept HTTP requests, but they operate at different levels. Filters work at the servlet container level and handle low-level processing. Interceptors work at the Spring MVC level and handle application logic. A typical flow is: filter means interceptor means controller means interceptor means filter. Choosing the right one depends on your use case. Use filter for infrastructure-level concerns. Use interceptor for Spring-specific logic. Understanding this distinction helps you design cleaner and more maintainable Spring Boot applications.